I remember just sitting in an airport hotel and just basically wondering if, hey, I mean, I'm like 0 for 25 at this point. Like, am I cut out for this?
So over a 1.5 year period, you go from 5'4", 140 pounds, to 6'1", and 145 pounds. How does it impact you?
I mean, I struggled. Your motor skills go through, hell and back to basically, you get used to playing with a certain set of clubs, and now you're playing completely new clubs. And not to mention you're young and dumb and don't really know how to, not mature enough to handle the struggles. And so, I was pretty heavily recruited young, like probably getting my first letters at like 13. From about 15 to 17, I struggled pretty mightily. Some college coaches, one college coach told me that, hey, you can get into school first and you can walk on here. And I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. And then the second one, he asked what my goals were as a professional golfer. I just said, I don't know, like, maybe win the US Junior and, go to play D1 golf and play PGA Tour someday. And I remember him telling me, well, all of my guys walking in here, I want them to be world #1. And obviously you don't have the same attitude that I want my guys to have.
And Stanford was, correct me if I'm wrong, like the place you always wanted to
Yeah,
go.
no, I mean, I was, when basically they kind of stopped recruiting me, it was kind of a low point. Offers are starting to dry up a little bit, and then Jerry Haas comes along and offers me the Arnold Palmer Scholarship to go to Wake Forest.
How did that belief in you at that time impact you?
It meant an incredible amount because all I was told was no for 2 years, basically. And then finally, when someone comes along and says, you're our guy, it meant a lot. I mean, it started to get me to kind of believe in myself again, and I won the US Junior, the Trans-Miss, and the Texas State Amateur after I had signed my national letter of intent. Most people, when they sign their national letter of intent, they've already proven themselves. And if anything, I signed my national letter of intent and then proved myself.
Everybody I talked to close to you told me that 1.5 years after you left college was the hardest period of your life. What made it that way for you?
You leave early because I wanted that full year to get all of my starts, kind of cut my teeth as opposed to basically having a 1.5 month blitz and having to, catch fire in a bottle. And, when you're missing Monday qualifiers by 4, 5, 6, when you're not making any money and you're on your own, I mean, it's just not fun at all.
I think it was December 18 or January 19 after you don't qualify for Q school. You have this pretty important meeting with your team. Set the scene and explain what's talked about.
Yeah, so basically at the end of every year, we kind of do a year in review. It was like, okay, this is rock bottom. Like, you need to go do anything you can do. I kind of had to eat the humble pie and, go play in some mini tour events where you finish, third and you make $600 and you're like, oh, well, got money to go home with.
I'm curious if your mom has ever brought this up to you, because when I was talking to her, she told me, as a parent, you wondered, when is he going to realize maybe this isn't going to happen? You start to wonder, how are you going to support him in this realization? Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, especially where I had had so much success for so long, and there's no guarantee that you'll ever get to that next level. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you work. I mean, that's just part of it.
How about mentally, what your single lowest point was during that period?
I think probably the worst was I missed a qualifier in Kansas City, and I remember just sitting in an airport hotel and just basically wondering if, hey, I mean, I'm like 0 for 25 at this point. Like, am I cut out for this?
Depressed?
No, I mean, because it's still just golf. I think the part where, for me, where I'm probably a little sick in the head would be that my biggest moments have come after my lowest of lows, and it happened multiple times throughout my golf career. And I knew that, like, hey, I'm at rock bottom with my golf game. Like, it can only get better from here.
Do you talk to anybody about it then, or do you internalize that?
Tony the most. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Romo.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Romo the most. I mean, I'm beyond lucky to call him a brother figure to me. I mean, I'm number 12 in the world or 13 in the world in golf. Like, that doesn't even sniff what it's like being the quarterback of Dallas Cowboys. You know, the part that's so funny is I see a lot of me in him, and I know that he sees the same. I can ask him some of the most particular questions about his career and the little minute details of like, hey, did you have any game day traditions? And it was funny how both him and I had a lot of the same things, but for a guy who's as analytical as it gets, he cracks me up at how he has his nuances that are just so funny. I mean, I think I've seen him wear the same shirt like 6 out of the last 10 days type thing. But that's just him. I mean, Tony's Tony. He's a mad scientist.
And that relationship meant what to you during those kind of toughest days?
It's invaluable. I just remember sitting on his outside by his pool one night and just kind of telling him, like, this is just awful. This is a life-changing move that I did, leaving early from school. And I still plan on graduating, and I still planned on it at that time.
6 credits to go.
Yeah, all electives. So underwater basket weaving and fire prevention and all that garbage. That's all I need to do. But yeah, I mean, you question if you made the right decision or not. All of a sudden, within a year, I'm, finishing 6th in the U.S. Open, and I was planning on graduating that fall, and all of a sudden, I've been a little busy for the last year and a half.
What makes you say if you had gotten your PGA Tour card right away, that would have been the worst thing that could have happened to you?
I think I was not mature enough to handle the week in, week out stresses of, I didn't know my routines. I would have over-practiced and overworked to a point where I would have just gotten in my own way. And I think when I had that year and a half of Korn Ferry where it was kind of teaching me how to play a full schedule, it made me ready for the next level. And it's a brutally painful, slow process, but at the same time, we're also talking about it, how I went from there to here in 2 years. I laugh at how now I get asked in the media if I'm worried about finishing or having the career runner-up Grand Slam and majors. I'm like, I haven't even played 10 majors yet.